And so this knife that I had on me, it's quite a large knife. I was thinking when I was going up there to pack a smaller knife, maybe like something like a Kabar or something like that, or a cold steel, bushcrafting knife, something like that. I did love the knife. So the knife, even though it's not the strongest metal, it's made out of a stainless steel and not a carbon steel, but it actually held up fairly decently for edge retention. I put it through quite a beating. I actually dug through probably half an hour worth of snow and cutting through the snow for a long time. It did wear on it a bit, but it was still sharp, still cut through bark and things like that quite well. And it's mostly the shape of the knife. The shape of the knife is a fantastic knife. The grip is horrible, so I did add this grip. And Skulligrim, if you check out his channel, also mentioned that the shape of the blade and the way it functions in your hand is excellent, but the grip is horrible, and the grip is definitely horrible. So the grip that comes on with it, so I'd recommend to the company to change that out for something that's going to grip better. Yeah, it's going to be something that you're going to want to do. So I did again hockey tape on here and wrapped it, and with that it was a much better knife. The only reason I would give this system a 4 or a 3.5 possibly out of 5 stars is that the sheath broke. So the sheath's nice, it's lightweight, it's not the prettiest sheath, so if you're into like nice collector sheaths like Skulligrim is, you probably want to get like a nice leather sheath for it, something like that. But for a bushcrafting thing, I like the webbing. It's lightweight, has this pocket, the pocket functions fine. But down here there was a little pin that went through that locked in the internal sheath, which is some kind of plastic or polymer or something like that, and that came out. And that only came out on my last day, so I used it fine on the hike all the way up there, used it fine at camp in the winter, and used it excessively, pulling it in and out, chopping woods, doing some batoning to cut things down, as my friends were using hatchet to cut down other wood, splitting sticks, carving off wet bark in order to get the soaking wet sticks into their inner core, and the heartwood to burn that. So the knife itself functioned fantastic. The sheath, it broke, so I'll possibly return it and get another knife. I don't know, because I really do like this knife, the shape of it and how it actually functioned. Or I might try to fix it up, put another pin through there. I'll show you what I mean. So this isn't supposed to come out. It's supposed to be pinned in there, and right down here I believe is the pin, and that punches through and locks into this fiber, but it pulled through the fiber and the whole thing came out, and then it was just an annoying mess to deal with for that. I'll show you the actual knife blade here and say, you can see it's quite a big knife. Yeah, so sort of again, my batteries are dwindling. I'm trying to rotate through my old stock batteries that I hiked out of the bush. Obviously didn't leave the batteries in the bush. But as I was saying, the holster sucked because it broke and this thing came through for that. So for the whole system, I give it a 3.5 out of 5 stars, or maybe 4 to 5 stars if you're gonna be nice, because the knife was pretty good. The knife steel, again, was not the greatest, I guess. It still feels pretty sharp, and I did give it quite a beating, so it's not the worst thing to have, but it is a stainless steel rather than a high carbon steel. But it's a cheap knife, so for what it cost, to me it was $40 Canadian. You can probably pick it up in America for like 20 bucks, 10 bucks, something like that. For what you get for the value of the knife, it is a great knife, and it's an ergonomic knife. Works fantastically for its system. You can see it's quite a large knife. It's about a 1/4 inch thick. It has a saw blade on the back, which I didn't use as a saw, but it did work great for the ferro rod. So I'll show you that here. So it does throw quite a bit of sparks using the ferro rod and using that saw on the back, and it does clip into this pretty well and tear through it. So if you want to keep your ferro rod for a long time, maybe don't use a saw, but if you want to spark right away, because this will spark up those cotton balls in 1 strike, maybe 2 strikes, no problem. That saw worked fantastically. It has sort of a multi-grip system, so you can choke up in the back, and it's weighted heavy in the front if you do that. It has like a large center of gravity, probably in this section right here, and it will chop in super nice if you want to do some chopping action. And actually it was able to chop through some sticks, kind of like a hatchet, with just this knife. So that's one reason why I really liked having a little bit larger of a knife. And then if you want to do some fine tasks, you can choke up on it, rest your finger in this port here, and then be able to do some fine tasks for that. So the way they designed this knife was great. If the steel was better, that would be good, but I didn't actually have any major problems with the steel. It was still sharp at the end of the trip, even though I haven't sharpened it yet, and has a decent edge on it. I didn't have any major nicks in the blade or anything like that, so it did hold up fairly well. And this end here actually was digging. I was digging some rocks out when my tank collapsed in the dirt and through rocks, and peeling rocks out, things like that, digging into rocks. The tip's fine. There's no major damage to the edge, so it did hold up. So if you're worried about the steel, it's not the largest issue. The major issue is the sheath, with that pulling through. So I think I'll probably will keep the knife because I do like the knife. And yeah, if you're gonna get one of these, make sure to wrap it and count on this sheath breaking and either getting a secondary sheath or repinning it somehow, maybe some 550 cord, just a rope through there or something like that. But yeah, good knife, horrible sheath.